After hearing about ballet, holy shit, I have nothing to be complaining about. That was staggering. Thank you for that, I think. I'm here to speak to you as an artist, as an addict, but mostly as a survivor. I talk about survival quite a bit these days. There's a joke here north of the American border which goes like this: what would a Canadian musician do if he won $10 million in the lottery? He'd keep playing till he ran out of money. Correct. I've survived over the years. Basically, that's the job of an artist, is survival. And that leads us down a whole lot of roads that sometimes we don't want to go down. The idea of being an artist is not to necessarily jam your pockets with money and be incredibly successful, but to keep the possibility of being an artist tomorrow and the next day and the next week. Who are you? Okay, so glad we got that picture of me up, because now everything's okay, right? But thank you for that effort. I appreciate that. I don't even know what the hell I was talking about anymore. But anyway, survival takes on I'm an artist, and I was making stuff up, and it sounded really good. I've managed to survive as a young artist by figuring out that my audiences were really into speed, and so I would sell my audience's speed to put gas into the van and make it down the road, the 401, to the next stop in Kingston or Ottawa or down to Detroit or up to Montreal. When I became more successful, or at least in the eyes of the Canadian public and the people who bought my records around the world, I was more successful. I still didn't have any money, and I had developed quite an interesting addiction to cocaine. I was working a lot recording at Sony Music up on Leslie Street. I don't know if you were the president at that time, Denise, but I figured that I didn't have any money and I needed to keep my addiction going. And I saw around the offices at Sony, they used to have a lot of, Junos and gold records and stuff around. And I saw this Juno that I thought my dealer might be interested in. It was for the Rolling Stones Steel Wheels, 1990. And I thought, well, I got to get this out of here. But Sony was full of cameras, and I had to be very careful about it. So I actually came from the cafeteria in Sony and acted like I was really interested in this Juno. There were so many around. I looked at it, and I thought, I made it look like, oh, this Juno doesn't belong here. It belongs a little closer to the door. So I moved the Juno closer to the door, and then one day I came back, and about a week later, and I looked at the Juno Rolling Stone Steel Wheels, and I thought, I did the same act, like, this really doesn't belong here. I think I should move it closer to the door. And it took me 3 weeks to get that Juno into my backpack and get it out the door. I took it up to my dealer's house on the West Mountain in Hamilton, and he put it on top of his TV set, and he gave me, a couple 8 balls of cocaine. That was the life that I was living. Later on, I had some impacted teeth, and I still didn't have any money. So I went back to my dealer's house and I stole the Juno and I sold it to my dentist to get my dental work done. That's where I was at. And this is about survival. This is about survival on so many levels. I ain't in it for my health. That's what the great drummer for the band, Levon Helm, said. He died too early. So did Hank Williams and Prince and the next guy or girl who crawls up on stage and throws everything they've got at the world that they're born into. I could stand here today and just name names. So it goes. For a lot of them, And even if it's not a headline or a tweet that we all read aloud to our neighbors, to someone beside us, there are still thousands of unnoticed and undramatic cases. Cancer, heart attacks. They're all less glamorous, but that's how my friends die. From years and miles, from lack of sleep, and shitty food, and working too hard, and losing your groove, and getting shut down, and getting shut out, and trying to keep some money in our pockets. We go down gambling because that's what artists start off doing, and it's often how we end up. Nobody can figure out artists. Maybe that's why we're here today. Artists are like the Joker. I think it's Batman Begins or Batman Returns, I forget. I was watching it with my grandsons. The mob can't figure out what makes the Joker tick, can't figure out what motivates him. And that's what it's like with artists. That's what keeps us different. Makes mysteries, and that's also what makes us easy targets. Artists are the outsiders. Our values don't even hit the radar on the rest of the population. Artists are just sitting ducks in a world full of midway carnies. Artists struggle for acceptance for years, then are plunged into a world of hangers-on who want to fill their pockets with short-term promises and drugs and lies and sex and all the available evils that would drag any normal mortal down in days. Sex, booze, pills, smoke, sex, boredom, drugs, sex, weed, booze, sex, pills, sex. That's the round. That's what goes around. I myself walked into a field of mouths, sweet deep throats. I traveled over miles of fans who made me believe that I was the king of the land. Harvest queens were marrying the seasons that I dragged down behind me as I came off the highways into the center of their towns, banging on my guitar and moaning through giant speakers and calling them all to gather around. I became the father, the patriarch. I went straight to the head of the table and I rolled off stages and into bedrooms and back rooms and into Hell's Angels clubhouses, and I staggered back to my hotel room just in time to make lobby call, and get in the van or the bus or get down to the airport, do it again and again and again and again. I don't even think the addiction was the substances. I think the addiction was the thrill to the stage. The fact that our rider, as we became more successful during the 90s, got bigger and bigger. It was 2 40 ounces of scotch, 2 40 ounces of vodka, 4 bottles of imported red wine, 100 beers, and if the promoter had access to any substances, that would be on the rider too. I broke my band up in 1997, and the rider kept coming for me as a solo performer. So I just found members of the audience that wanted to consume all the booze with me. The party was always on. I lost my mind because getting on stage was stressful and all-consuming. But getting on stage was not enough. I had to melt down and act up after the show was over. And soon the stage faded and the party around the stage is what took over. Artists are often the ugly guy at the dance. A little bit of attention from someone cool or pretty is all that it takes for them to throw themselves out there. Fling it all against the wall for the chance, and all I wanted was the chance. I stuck my foot in the door in 1991 when I signed a publishing deal, then a deal memo with Sony Music, a major label that I convinced to spend lots and lots and lots of money on me. Just as a footnote, I never signed my long-term contract. Deep down, I was a punk, a dealer, a con man. And I just kept dancing till they all forgot about that pesky paperwork. I did business. I did this at the age of 31, past the pop star, rock star prime. I had a mortgage, a daughter, and another baby on the way. I had a wife that couldn't stand me. And I was playing the same game as all the children who were gigging around the same clubs on Queen Street were. Addiction is not just substance. Addiction comes with trying to survive. Like when you have to repeat yourself over and over again and say the same thing over and over again to your kids. It wears you down, it takes you out. Survival for an artist is like being in a bar fight every day. You got to use everything around you in arm's reach to hit the other guy. Legs, chairs, mic stands, broken bottles. They're all yours, and you got to use them because you may just die right then and there. Now, at the age of 58, I wake up at 7 a.m. I get to my office and start work by 9. I do business all day long, emails, phone calls, and I write my book for my publishers and my editors at Random House. And I write songs for other people and myself and for my next project. And I go upstairs and paint some paintings for an upcoming art show that I have in New York. And I sell blocks of tickets, and I organize bus trips to my show at Massey Hall on February 25th, by the way. And I do that all until 9 p.m. at night, and I sleep with an oxygen mask, and I wake up and I do it again, and I do it again. And some days I leave town and I go on the road for 2 or 3 weeks touring, and it never stops, and it never will. I don't know what you call that, but I still call that addiction. So, I've been clean and I've been sober for 18 years, and I'm an old man now. I came to this in a different time when bar rooms were filled with smoke and blood and piss on the road. Accommodations and basic needs were way below the bar they are now. I'm finally at the point where I hear myself thinking and sometimes saying, when I was your age, or you ought to try doing what I do for a living. Hank Williams' wife kept him out on the road making money because he was no longer any good to her and her son at home. Booze, pills, and women. When she finally had enough of him, his infidelities and addictions, she filed for divorce. He told her, Audrey, I won't live another year without you. And he didn't. It's a funny thing about fame, whether it's big fame or whether it's small fame. It breathes life into you, and at the same time, it sucks all the oxygen out of the room. So you end up standing there, watching the people you love choke. We don't come out fully formed, although as performers we feel we do. Love changes everything for us, because it's what we are all born to do, and we forget that when the world gets in between us and our hearts, we have to go back to love. If you can teach love, you can save the world, and you'll definitely save an artist. Thank you.